Welcome back to another episode of the Mana Daily Podcast. Today, I am rejoined with Patreon supporters who have been keeping this show and page on Instagram going through their generous monetary support. If you guys would like to do that, feel free to follow any of the links in the Show More tab down below, and you'll see one of the links for where you can possibly donate. And then you could possibly join in on one of these topics. I wanted to do something a little bit different on behalf of Renee's request. So if anybody here as well has a request, maybe I can curtail something specifically for questions that you might have. It's going to be involving the Tower of Babel. It's going to be explaining a little bit more the minutia behind the Kabbalah Christmas trees and possibly connecting us all to the Mark of the Beast, but making it a little bit more succinct as opposed to a 3, 5, 4 hour topic. Try to make this one a little bit more concise because I understand some people are pressed for time. As I just told them, if they have any questions, they can raise their hand, and they are technically doing that on behalf of you guys, the viewers. So if you have any problems, feel free to throw your rotten tomatoes at the audience. So, without any further ado, folks, I'm going to hit the share screen. The present. Okay, can everybody read that? Or see?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yes.
see more so. I'll be reading. How many are you familiar with tarot cards?
A little bit.
A little bit. Obviously, I think the Bames were telling me about some Pokemon card issue they were having
That's
back,
right.
or a little conviction. Totally understand where you're coming from with that. As I've been doing this, it's been having second thoughts about D&D. I'll probably do a presentation at that at some point. I think I mentioned that before. Do think the role play is still good. I've been looking into it. The theosophy connections to it has kind of convicted me. But when I start seeing some of these symbol on the tarot cards, and then I start perusing around in the music industry, there's a band that I really liked, but I was always noticing, why do they have all this Masonic symbolism surrounding their artwork on all their covers, right? So looking at this, at first I was just like, okay, all seeing eye, obviously Masonic. But The Devil Makes Three, it's the name of the band, and I just was starting to scratch my head. I was like, okay, so what exactly am I looking at? And this came up around my feed the other day as I was listening to some music, and I took a screenshot, and then it suddenly dawned on me where I have heard this story before. So I'm going to read the slide on the left, and then we're going to start elaborating where we've seen these symbols before, connecting to the Tower of Babel. Now, this tarot card, it's number 16 of Roman numerals, was struck by lightning. And I can't pronounce this French word. The Les Missions Dieu, bibliophiles, people who like books, refer to it as Nimrod's Tower. Others, the Tower of Babel. But by whatever name it is known, it is number 16, and the tarot trumps. And a card of ill omen, since it depicts ruin. So I saw ruin here. So I was like, there's got to be maybe a little bit of connection. Are you giving a little bit of a nod towards Nimrod? In the occult lore, what this card portends is told in the story of Nimrod, that the mighty king of old, lord of all he surveyed, and a magnificent archer who could bend the bow like Nimrod. Now, something I found interesting when I was looking into the Epic of Gilgamesh, the word Gilgamesh in Sumerian, I think it is the word, I think is the language being used there, means archer. I was like, okay, maybe there's a little something here. None was mightier than Nimrod with his captive kingdoms, physical prowess and power. Nimrod is any one of us when we get above ourselves and need cutting down to size. He is also any nation which thinks it can conquer the world, just as Nimrod met his nemesis or unconquerable, unforeseen fate. So can we, overweening and presumptuous, meet theirs. Let me first tell you the story of Nimrod, who, in his pride, caused the great tower to be erected, the Tower of Babel, which means the gate of the angels. Thousands of slaves toiled for many years to erect Babel, the tower that was so nearly to reach heaven, in order that Nimrod, the mighty archer, could shoot an arrow into the rainbow, which, according to scriptures, encircled the throne of God. When he thought the tower was high enough, Nimrod went up with all of his court and fitted an arrow to his bow and aimed at a patch of blue sky between the heavy clouds. The arrow sped upwards, and in the moment, the Tower of Babel crumbled into dust. Behold the image on the right. Nimrod and those who had built the tower had their tongues confounded. In other words, each man spoke in a different language, and no one could understand his neighbor. Since that day, so the story goes, there have been many languages throughout the world, whereas previously there had only been one. A modern version of the story might be the story of a rocket shot from a great launching platform or tower into the Van Allen belt or the Rainbow Belt. The scientists did not know what it would do, and still do not know what it has done, except to prove what we already know from the Bible, that there is a rainbow round the throne of God. Some scientific Nimrod aimed his rocket at this rainbow and pierced it. And if there were to be any consequences, the fall of the Tower of Babel, they will be sudden, disastrous when they occur. We must wait and see. How many of you have heard that in your Bible before? The full context. Yeah, and I remember I was listening to a sermon. I can't remember the gentleman who was preaching, but he said, "You don't understand the wording that's here. Nimrod and his group, they're there. Let us go up to God," and you hear God talking to the angel saying, "Let us go down to man." It's like, who do you think is going to beat you in this matchup? And as we can see here, yes, they are. They mention ruin. They show the 16 Roman numeral and a tower collapsing, but not only at the tip of the tower. What do we see falling? Does anybody recognize that?
Like a crown.
It is a crown. The Latin word for crown is
Corona.
corona.
No. Yeah.
So does that have any meaning for what we're going on with today? So you could say that this is Nimrod, this is his wife, Semiramis, and as it just said in the story, allegedly, this is what happens. Now, again, you could say, well, that's not biblical, it's not canon. However, this is what the occult believes. And we can give a little bit of a concession here that they have a little bit of some stuff preserved and they could have taken out a little stuff here and there. Again, keep your mind open. Because you could say, oh, that's just a bunch of hogwash. But then you look at some modern symbolism, the world, in 2017, Planet Trump. And right next to Trump, it shows the tower collapsing. Right on the front page. Right? What fell during 9/11?
Towers.
Two towers. Two towers.
Real quick,
Yes, sir.
Have you ever heard of Operation Fishbowl?
Yes, sir. Actually, we'll be touching briefly on that. Not necessarily with that term, but we will be touching on it.
Okay. Just Gilgamesh or Nimrod shooting an arrow into the heavens reminded me of that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
High
This,
altitude nuclear.
in part, this is what makes me kind of scratch my head and give a little bit of a favorable nod towards biblical cosmology of a dome. Whether or not that's true, I'm just showing you what they believe. And if God was not okay with a tower going up towards him, you really think he's okay with rockets? And again, that's just it doesn't necessarily mean I'm right or wrong. It's just kind of making me go, fair enough, fair enough. I'll weigh that into the back of my mind. Or as Mary, she pondered these things in her heart. So then you see Trump, he's sitting on Greenland, and his toes are pointing down towards South America, right towards Venezuela, is where it cuts off conveniently. I think we recently just had an incident where we kind of took that place, filibustered it, as it were. And then he's holding that little globe, Christus Globus or whatever it is, that thing that the Pope holds. It means you're in charge of heaven, you're in charge of earth, and you're in charge of Tartarus, the thing below. In his other hand, he's holding the scepter with an eagle on it. You'll find this as well, that they've had this in Congress as a symbol over there. Underneath him, which is what I found really interesting, they have the magician halo over his head, and he's wearing these VR headsets while he's printing out 3D printer homes. I'm just saying that's kind of dystopian and eerie. And another reason I give a little bit of a because what they always depict for Christ in artwork, which is why I'm an iconoclast, I don't think we should be doing that. A white tunic, a red sash. MAGA means magician, mage, or great illusionist, and this is directly under Trump. It's something that just makes me go, okay, all right. Thanks for playing, folks. Whether that's something, let's see. Now, the gentleman over here, Nayib Bukele, probably butchering that. This is the president of El Salvador, and Trump asked him to make 5 more max prisons after he made the first one. This is what he wrote on his X. We are birthing super intelligence. We are creating the mind of God, infinite, destined to solve every problem we've ever faced and usher in an age without death. Wow. So, a sign for infinite, you could say a Ouroboros eternity, would be this little Ouroboros that you see over a tarot card. If you're having a hard time seeing it on screen, feel free to pull it up on your phone for closer visual aid. Tarot card magician. You'll see a Ouroboros hanging on over his head. Again, this is another book of the Kabbalistic tradition by Omran Mikhail Avenhoff. I think I got that one right. The fruits of the tree of life. And you see him doing the same pose with this, stick, a staff in his hand, right? Just like the magician. And what is stemming off of the tower? A rainbow. Now, again, you could say, well, that's not really true. But again, if Nimrod is Noah's grandson, right? And you're mad at God, you want to destroy his promises. So how do you do that? I have to take a shot at God. Allegedly, according to lore, whether true or not, God gave him that bow to actually slay the last of the Nephilim that had survived the flood. But instead of doing that, he said, now why don't I just go to war against heaven and take out angels up there and become God myself? Now maybe I have a hunch. This is where we get the imagery of little Cupid, because hearts are supposed to be a symbol of Baal, and he's playing with a little bow. Is that supposed to be Nimrod's son, and they just remember him playing with daddy's bow? Again, mere conjecture, no proof. I'm just saying, when you're getting after post Babel and you're trying to explain what you saw and what you remember, the best you have is artwork to depict what you saw. The rest is then mystified, and then, this one says this in their lore, this one says that, and then it just kind of gets all jumbled up, but it still all traces back to the unholy trinity of Babel. Questions? Is it too much? Going too... Okay, just let me know, folks. Again, somebody did an original, and they were trying to put a bash on Christ, saying, oh, look, they're obviously worshiping Baphomet. And I was like, ha ha ha, hold on there. They're actually worshiping the magician, which is an equivalent of Hermes. How do I know that's Hermes? Hermes is an equivalent of Nimrod's son Tammuz, and you'll know that this little staff with the snake on it, it's the same as Baphomet's genitals. And again, I'm not doing a big presentation this time, but I've had quotes where I've connected Hermes with as above, so below, as within, so the universe, so the soul, which connects directly to Hermes. And that's a phrase that we affiliate with Baphomet, with the 2 fingers going up and the 2 fingers pointing down, as above, so below. That's about as far as most people know. I was at a game night and I said to the guys, like, well, like in the occult, how they worship the goat. He's like, the what? The goat. What are you talking about? The Baphomet, the goat head guy. Well, I have no idea. You don't even know? Like, have you never watched a horror film? You've never seen like a Criminal Minds thing, and they're going into somebody's basement and they have some kind of occultic ritual? You have no idea what a goat means. No. Wow. You're kind of dense on spiritual warfare, my friend. But this is unfortunately what we're dealing with a lot of people. They don't want to know. But if you see the symbols, like you turn your Starbucks upside down, it's a goat head. I just saw that one pop up on me recently. I was like, yikes! Or a ram's head, to be more precise, with the horn going around. That's why she's holding her 2 finny things. So, like I said, MAGA, magician, mage, witch, a sorceress, or in Sanskrit is the magician or priest of the sun. Now, if we've gone by most of the lore, if you've seen like a TikTok video or something on Instagram, Nimrod was the god of the sun, or he saw himself as a sun god. Excuse me, another reason where we get halos over the head of a pharaoh, right? It comes from Egypt, and then this started to migrate into the Catholic Church, and now we equate it with, oh, look, it's Saint so and so with a halo over his head. Not really a Christian concept, but kind of migrated it in there. But what does these symbols on this little card mean? One, which is right over his head, represents the God potential movement and independence, right? Or enlightenment, inner light. Find the inner light of God within myself. And the magician's stance represents being in alignment with the divine realm and 3D reality. Millie knows all about that, being an artist. The four suits represent mastery over the elements. So a lot of times when I'm seeing Christians and they don't quite understand what I'm posting, I'm telling them, well, okay, so you say you're against Satanism. What is Satanism? What's worshiping Satan? Okay, what does that look like? Well, doing rituals and stuff. But what do they believe in? Why do they do these rituals? Why do they think the elements are part of this? Please explain that to me. And they can't. So this is where I'm kind of telling some people you have to have a little bit of grace, because even Christ, when he's being crucified by his own people, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. We need to have a little bit of an understanding going, do you understand what that symbolizes in the occult? Even if you say, oh, I'm not really doing all that, or I'm the good witch, it's like, yeah, but this is what it means to them. And once you start defining meaning, it's not a matter of, well, that's your truth. No, this is the truth of the gospel. There's only one truth. You can't interpret it or say, well, that's what it means to me. That's when you start falling into fallacies. So it's a time to create life you desire. You've acquired valuable life experience and wisdom that will help you manifest and remain focused, aware, and dedicated. Harness your energy and make your dreams a reality. You can do it. So does that sound a little bit like New Age? Right? That's what the occult, the Gnostics, right? If I have the knowledge, right, I don't really need God. This is where some problems with philosophy. If you love wisdom so much, and then you start to eject God from the equation of how you view the world, it's like, we've got this. We already have the elements of creation at our fingertips. Now we can dispose of you. Thank you for your services. We can become our own God. We can continue our own longevity by creating a God particle like they're doing with CERN. Yes, Renee.
Oh, I didn't say anything.
Oh, I saw you hit unmute, so I was assuming you were
Oh,
about to
yeah, it was an
chime in.
accident. Okay.
But again, as you can see, Statue of Liberty, and this is the sound off of the pentagram. This is the final stance, which represents Earth, as above, so below. Now, some could say, well, how do you know Christmas connects with Babel? This is just a random Google search, but do you guys kind of see some similarities here? No, you're kind of jumping on conjecture here. It's not really the mm, mm. When I look at a lot of the artwork, it looks very similar to this, right? But what does it mean, right? Well, the lights of the baubles are the Roman Saturnalia tradition. Some say it represents male balls. The gifts, the Babylonian tradition. Most likely born in September is Christ, which I highly suspect, yes, 9/11 would possibly be a very good candidacy for his date of birth. Now, you either put a star at the top or an angel. Now, when we just read that card, what did it say? Gateway of the angels, right? Another phrasing could be portal of the gods. And you always put a star or an angel at the top. Interesting, right? The Yule log, a symbolic of Mithras, the god of the sun, which is another equivalent of Tammuz, Nimrod's son. Um, So I started asking some questions of connections with some of this imagery and what did the ancient world believe? Some of it I was able to find on Google, other sources, but basically, the imagery of stars and crowns in the ancient world symbolized divinity, royal authority, and immortalized of heroes or gods, bridging the gap between the earthly and the heavenly realms. Stars, think also stars of Hollywood, when I'm saying this, were often viewed as divine beings or souls, while crowns, coronas, or wreaths signified victory and exalted status. The crown constellation, the Corona Borealis. In Greek mythology, the constellation Corona Borealis, or the Northern Crown, was famously linked to the story of Ariadne. According to the myth, the god Dionysus, an equivalent of Nimrod, placed the jeweled crown he gave to his wife, Ariadne, in the heavens as a memorial. Other cultural interpretations, while Greeks saw a crown, other ancient cultures viewed these stars differently. Celts saw a castle, Australians a boomerang, and Western Asians a cracked dish. The Egyptian beliefs stars as souls. Now, remember that some of that terminology you might be seeing when you're perusing around online that we're all stardust? We all come from the stars, right? And this is what I've even argued with some atheistic friends. I asked my buddy, he was very big into math, but he was an atheist outright. And I said, "So where do you come from?" And he's like, "Space." "Yeah, and where do you come from in space?" "Well, space." I was like, "Yeah, but where did that meteorite come from in space?" "Space dust." "Okay, cool. We got something now." So space dust tumbleweed comes pummeling into the sun, crashes down into the earth, becomes kind of some little molecule in the ocean, become a fish, some kind of lizard. Eventually, over time, we get that evolution scale going on, and we become like what? Ape, Neanderthal, and then we become man. But at the end of the day, you're saying you come from some space dust. Yeah, I guess so. Cool. My Bible says I come from the dust of the earth. So we actually agree on this, but mine acknowledges an artist, a timeline, and a creator, right? It's not just poof, you come into existence. He's like, well, so basically, if you come from space, what does space mean? It's empty. What's another word for empty? Zero. So if you're telling me you come from space dust, that means you're telling me you equal zero. Huh? As a mathematician, I had him stumped. I said, nothing comes from nothing, right? That's impossible. Everything has to come from something. So when you're going now suddenly to New Age and they're trying to give this little explanation, we come from stardust. Well, stars are an equivalent of deities or angels. So does that have some kind of connotation when they do the alien invasion of Project Bluebeam? Let's see what the Egyptians. Stars as souls. Ancient Egyptians believed that the souls of deceased kings would rise to the heavens to become stars, specifically imperishable stars or circumpolar stars. The celestial queen, the goddess Nut, was often represented as the sky, with stars inscribed across her body. The ancient Near Eastern symbolism, the star and the crescent, divine symbols, the combination of a crescent moon and a star, or a star inside a crescent, dates back to the ancient Near East, where they represented the divine personifications of the sun and moon, or the moon and Venus. Now, what is the when they're talking about the morning star in Revelation? It connects with the Venus star when I was looking up into it. Allegedly, next year around March into the fall of 2027, the year of the goat, there's supposed to be some kind of star thing occurring, and it was supposed to be aligned with the Venus thing, and I was going, kind of wonder. Because if you're going by Google Images the years ahead, they also say that's when Armageddon's supposed to happen. So whether that means anything, I don't know. Just putting it out there for consideration. The dynastic emblems. Mithra deities, the six, Eupator from 120 to 63 BC, of Pontus used an 8-rayed star with a crescent moon as his royal emblem. Now, some have equated the 8-pointed star to be the star of chaos and or to be Cain's star. That's also found within a lot of Jesuit pendants. The biblical and early Christian imagery. In Revelation 12, the women clothed with the sun in the book of Revelation wears a crown of 12 stars representing the 12 tribes of Israel and the 12 apostles, symbolizing the people of God. The spiritual victory in this context, the crown, signifies triumph over evil and divine favor. The Roman imperial crowns, the radiant crown, the spiked crown that you might see on your Statue of Liberty. Similarly to the idea of a star, Roman emperors of the 3rd century AD wore a radiant crown, a crown with spikes representing sun rays to signify their connection with the sun god Sol Invictus. Now, what did they do with Christ in contrast? You want a spiked crown? Invert it. Right? They know darn well what they're doing with that imagery. But as opposed to going outward like the sun, they're crushing it inward into his skull. Questions? No? I just want to make sure I'm not going too fast or if it's too heavy. Guys, anything you want to chime in, like Operation Fishbowl? Okay.
I just want to clarify real quick. You
For
said
sure.
about the halos, the halos. Is that so when they put halos around whatever, they're just giving a nod to that it's all it's just Nimrod, right? Like sun
Or
god worship.
divine ascending like Nimrod, like this imagery here. They've said, allegedly, this is supposed to be connecting with some other pharaoh, but now, as of recently, they're having speculation whether they've actually gotten this correct. Right? You got the large one, you got a medium one, and then you got the baby one. You got the Goldilocks pyramids, right? Now, the devil makes 3. There's an unholy trinity of Babel. There's Semiramis, the wife mother of Nimrod, and their son Tammuz. 1, 2, 3. Is it possible Nimrod's buried in the pyramids? I have a hunch, and this is not confirmed, but I have a hunch because there's a passage that Christ says, if they say he's in the inner chambers, believe them not. And they allege that Hermes Trismegistus was buried in these chambers. And now they're having rumors that the Ark of the Covenant and or Christ's body could be buried within the pyramids. I kid you not. These are real article headlines you can look up. I think it was one of those India News Today. Now, whether or not this means anything, I don't know. But you see how they align, right, with the Orion, sorry. Pyramids all around the world align with Orion. According to the ancient mystery, Sirius, right, was a gate to the other realms. Pyramids deliberately align, creating magical portals from or to other worlds. Wow. Okay. So if that's supposed to be a portal, and we have Babel, gateway or portal of the gods, right? And it's aligned with stars. Now, stars were affiliated with angels, right? Angels were known as star walkers in ancient Hebrew lore. Is there a little bit of a connotation here that I will ascend to be like my own god, right? Now, I think I was talking with Tim the other day, and I said in passing, the lore that I personally believe, when you're reading Enoch 6 and Genesis 6, the sons of God, they come down, they have affairs with the daughters of men. Okay. Later on, you go to Job, so sons of God, they approach the throne as they're going to be, chastising God and asking what they can and cannot do with Job, right? And everybody concurs that's got to be angels in that passage. But when you get over to 1 John, right, he says, behold the manner of the love of the Father, that we, Christians, should be called the sons of God. In Psalm 82, and again, this is some of Michael Heiser's work, he says that we are supposed to be sitting in judgment over the fallen angels, the other lower Elohim. Now, if God had a council in heaven already, right, that decided to fall away for temporary earthly pleasures, In contrast, if you wanted to replace that fallen heavenly council, what are you looking for? Obedience, loyalty, people that love me. Those are ones I'm going to want to replace for you guys. So this would now give an incentive in spiritual warfare wise. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principality. Why? That you're gonna give it to them, man? Really? You're gonna give them my robes, my crown, my districts? Them? Yeah, that man's just a little bit above the angels. I'm just saying, whether or not it does give you one an incentive, because if you are going to be on a new heavenly council, whoa, big stuff. Secondly, gives you a little bit of a deeper perspective of is this what we're really up against spiritual warfare wise? Because look at that in contrast. Now we invert that. You can become your own God, but don't submit to him. Find it within yourself. Pyramid scheme, quite literally. So, I
Okay.
think, any questions?
No, that's good. Just to recap, I like to go back to the thing. So
For sure.
The Orion, the stars of Orion over the pyramids, like this is all that the halo, like that kind of depicts the halo. And then when they see it in art, it's all a nod to sun god.
And
And
again, they have it in Egypt, they have it in China, they have it in Mexico. Now, again, this could be
oh,
mirrors and replication. Maybe there's other dynasties with the other, 13 blood family, whatever it is.
uh-huh.
I'm just saying, apparently they believe something like that. And while we may not talk about it in our normal Christian circles,
Yeah.
they believe it. And if we don't
Yeah.
understand what it is they believe, right? To be wise as serpents, but gentle as doves. It doesn't necessarily mean we become
Yeah.
practitioners, but we are
Yeah.
aware of what they do in the darkness and we seek to expose it, as Ephesians 5:11 tells us to do. Have no part, but expose it.
Yes.
Israeli Supreme Court happens to have this all-seeing eye pyramid thing on top of their building. Don't know why you do that. And you pay taxes to your iris or the IRS, which is theirs when you combine the and IRS together.
Oh,
um,
wow.
right?
Wow.
It's theirs. Render unto Caesar
Oh
what's
my
his.
gosh.
Don't worry about what That's between you. Focus on your spiritual things, not on these other things. And again, in front of the IRS, you have a pyramid with two hands on each side, kind of like the God figure they have in Brazil with outstretched hands.
Oh,
So America, right? The founding fathers, for a reason, they decided to put Novus Ordo Seclorum on our money, right? I found it interesting, especially I think it's on the $1 bill. One, uni, universe, infinite, being one, becoming number one, right? And they decided to put this on our money. And I think this has something to do with a possible Antichrist figure. That's just my personal hunch. As well, they create the classic 99, the 33 for our American flag. You have, when you go this way with the stripes on your flag, you have 9. When you go up and down, you have 11, 9/11. And then you add the other 13 stripes, and you get a total of 9 plus 11 plus 13, a Masonic 33. No other country has that particular number. But again, you're going by what the occult believes, a 33 is a mirrored 88. What is that supposed to mean? It is the perfect ascended, what do you call it, divine being. When you have the perfect genetics of the woman and the perfect genetics of the man, you get Semiramis and Nimrod, who created Hermes, who wrote on his emerald tablets, the God of all perfection is here. Your God? The father of all perfection, sorry. So, and then I'm scrumming around on Rumble, trying to just upload some stuff on an uncensored platform before they started censoring me. Thanks, Cash, whatever, Down Bungino. Apparently he owns half that company, so that's why I'm getting censored. And I see this little ad in the upper right corner, and this pops up as a trading card. You want a trading card with this classic Operation Hammer we had last July? We got that Iran nuclear site, right? And then I'm looking at the image, and I turn it upside down, and what popped up at me? Is it just me, folks, or can you see what I was seeing? Pyramids. Now, I could be wrong. Again, maybe I'm schizophrenic. Maybe, I'm a little bit on the spectrum, as Sam Tripoli said. I'm a little bit autistic when it comes to this thing, like Rain Man. I understand that. I totally do. But if you see what I'm seeing, maybe I'm not. Give me some help here.
No,
And I was thinking,
anyone on the spectrum, like what, like autists or whatever, like this is good because you hyper focus on these
oh, I want to be an
details.
artist, not autistic. But this is, again, for me, I was thinking, okay, and this one's completely out from left field, but if you guys want me to talk about it or not. Okay, I'll
I'm
talk
sorry.
about it. I saw
Yeah,
Tim
talk
move his
about it.
mouth, but he's muted, but I assume that meant go for it. Okay, so I was thinking when Erica Kirk is going on this carousel thing on her in her music video, on the wall there was like what 9/10, and that happened to be the date that Charlie allegedly got clipped. I was like, oh. But right after that, they show 10/10. Okay, what's 10/10? XX. Oh, double X. Okay, XX genomes XX. Maybe there's something there. XX 2020. I don't know. Maybe 2020. Maybe something there. But then I was thinking, let's say an Armageddon scenario happens. You want to sign an Abrahamic peace accords, but you need a neutral country. All right, why not Egypt? Egypt would be a perfect place to go, right? It's close enough, but far enough away. Let's go to Egypt, right? Where are we going to sign it? How about a nice public place like the pyramids? And not only that, but you're saying what kind of really started all of this? Didn't it start at Gaza on October 7th? You know what? You're darn right. Let's sign it on the October 7th of 2027. Now, why did I just say October? October means 8, a mirror 33, right? And on the 7th, right? If somebody was to suffer a head wound that seemed quite possibly a mortal wound, and then he's down for 3 days. Meantime, J.D. Vance, I got a letter from Trump telling me what to do with Iran if they do anything fishy. And they start knocking off everything, right? Allegedly, they say it's nuclear fallout, but I think that would be 5G starting to be amped up. And all the stuff that people got in their body in 2020 possibly start coming towards the surface as boils and burns and all this sort of thing. Within 3 days, this individual comes back miraculously. Maybe it's Neuralink technology. It's fixed whatever's been tampered with, or. And again, XX. You got XX plus 33, meaning 8, right? X being the 10th of October, and X being the 10th month out of the year for us. But in the occult, they're seeing a little bit extra. Am I making sense with October? 8. That means 8. Octagon, octopus. Okay. So again, whether or not that's all true, whether or not that all comes into fruition, I was just going, I wonder if that's possibly what that thing on the wall was implying. If it does happen, it'd be very interesting. And then you also add a little, I was on the other side and this is what I saw. And then you go full on God mode and saying like I'm gonna bring divine judgment from God's divine thing, and everybody goes nutsy cuckoo and they try to bring a one world religion because he obviously went to the other side and look, he's come back a changed man and who can really go war against the beast. Let's do this. Now that's complete hyperbole if this is true and if my imagery is anything to go by, but for your consideration. Questions with that? I know that was kind of crazy. That was my board moment. There's no more of that. I do apologize. That was my broad board moment. um, money, money. Now they allege that Nimrod's son Hermes, that he might have been the originator of coinage. Whether or not that's true, I give a little bit of a nod of consideration because gold would represent the sun, silver would represent the moon, which would be Semiramis, right? Father and mother. And then money. Mane, mono, mano, a. One eye. One eye. And that's kind of what I keep thinking to myself. Should I technically be carrying my wallet into church? Right? Or even on my person, if this is what it's supposed to be representing, right? One eye. One eye. And how are you going to access that at a certain point? An eye scan. no man will be able to buy or sell unless you have the mark of the beast, which they're already talking about legislation for 27, possibly in the fall, that they're going to be having it where you can't get online unless you identify who you are. Now, whether that's putting in your social security, whether that means it's going to be an eye scan, I don't know. All I know is that they have that in the works currently with legislation. Now, let's say Iran does some sort of attack on a particular bank that little Larry Silverstein just bought in California. He was the owner of the Twin Towers. Let's say they do some sort of attack there and they start emphasizing we need to have a digital control grid so that they can't start hacking all of us with this stuff. So, in the name of peace and safety, everyone says, well, I don't see what the problem would be. I mean, right, we've already had this technology around, but now you're going full throttle. The only way you'll be able to access your funds and or buy or sell with anybody online, you got to give me your eye scan, right? Now, do I think that's true? Well, in the alchemical air symbol, it's a pyramid with a slash through it. What does that mean? Well, if you go by Ephesians 2:2, in which you used to live when you followed the ways of this world and of the ruler of the kingdom of the air, the Spirit who is now at work in those who are disobedient. John 3:36, when after we get John 3:16, it says those who are obedient to the Son. Every time you hear the word the Son, referring to the Son of God, you can put Son with word. Those who are obedient to the word of God. 2 Corinthians 4:4 says Satan blinds the minds of those who are unbelievers. Why? Government means mind control. And there's this guy, I love him immensely, but I curtail heavily where he says it's good to have capitalism. That's not that I'm saying I'm a proponent of communism either. No, I'm actually, the more I've looked into this, I'm against the concept of money. Because money is the root of all evil, and every time it's run by Caesar, the state, it corrupts man's character with the temptations of things of this earth. And this is kind of what I've been thinking about. When we read that story of Ananias and Sapphira, right, and they go up to Peter and they're like, yeah, well, here's everything that we have, right? Because a lot of the early church, once they understood who Christ was, the temptation of having materialism was like, you know what? I'd rather give it all over to you and actually help somebody in a ministry sense, as opposed to hoarding this for myself where it might corrupt my character. Wow. So you could say that's communism. But why? You're helping the widows and the orphans with that. It's not regulated by the state, it's regulated by the community, the ecclesia. But what was their sin? You lied to me. It wasn't the fact that you held a little bit back, it's the fact that you said, we gave you everything, and you lied. And you didn't just lie to me, you lied to God. You said, I put everything on the altar to be in this contract covenant with you, and you didn't. You held a little bit back for yourself. Drops dead. Boom. Drops dead. I'm just saying, like, I think of that in a modern sense, and how many Christians are willing to say, you know what, I'm willing to get rid of everything. Why? For him, for the kingdom. I don't know if any people are ready to pull that trigger. Why? Because they love this materialism. And what did he say about the rich man? Easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of heaven. So a little bit about materialism here that I'm thinking about. And again, the air concept, right? I want you to keep you down here in the material realm. I don't want you to cross that firmament barrier. I will ascend to be like the God Most High, and I will take care of all your needs, right? AI will provide universal income for all. Babylon Musk. AI, we're summoning the demon. Whoa. I don't know. I don't know. So I'm thinking to myself, Stargates. I'm thinking of what Stargate Atlantis, thinking of the Stargate movie series, right? Everybody knows that show. I'm pretty sure most people here have, yes? Cool. Nah, just that'll be good enough. CERN is named after Cernunnos, a Celtic lord of hell. This is supposed to be an equivalent of Nimrod. At CERN's headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland, is a statue of Shiva doing the cosmic dance of destruction. Shiva is the Hindu avatar that parallels Nimrod, who built the Tower of Babel. CERN's Hadron Collider rings mirror the spirals of Saturn. In the occult, Saturn is the dark sun and prison planet of the fallen angels. CERN is designed as a teleportation machine to Saturn. The secret mission of CERN is to unleash Apollyon, and the dark angels from the abyss and create a stairway to heaven to make war with God Almighty. Anybody ever know that song? Stairway to Heaven was written in Aleister Crowley's house in Scotland, and when you play it backward, it's a creepy song. You might want to look that up on your YouTube if you're brave enough with them cross-referencing browsers. But if anything, they'll probably be happy that somebody else has found the logic of these very cryptic lyrics that make no sense. But when you play it backwards, it's kind of creepy. It's
You're
kind of
talking
creepy.
about Led Zeppelin's
Yeah,
Stairway to Heaven. Alistair Crowley wrote that for them.
it was written in Aleister Crowley's house in Scotland.
Oh,
They
written
literally
in his home.
purchased it or rented it for whatever just to write the song in there.
Oh, great. Okay.
And Aleister Crowley was nicknamed the Beast. Bam, bam. Right. You might be familiar as well with Pink Floyd. I have a buddy of mine, the friends that he knows, they invited him to go to a Pink Floyd what a cover band group. And they were playing over there in Hartford, and he said, Brandon, you would have hated it. There was so much symbolism on that stage. They had this big giraffe guy with a really long neck. On the gas pump was 666. They had this guy, like he was describing all this stuff. I was like, yep. And that doesn't surprise me because when you look at the symbolism for his logo, right, you get the rainbow going through the pyramid, through the I, right? But what does it mean? Etymology of the ancient Egyptian god Oz. You hear the Wizard of Oz, gold, meaning God, and open, iris, being from the Greek meaning rainbow. You pay money to the rainbow. Follow the yellow brick road. Creeping you out yet? Yeah, lots of symbolism going on here. Here, then, Iris, right? Osiris, the open rainbow or the god rainbow, may be looked upon as a god of light synonymous with Christ, Aman or Amun. A moon sign is the Great Pyramid. The angle of the incline is 42 degrees, is fundamental in creating or perceiving a rainbow. Osiris was dismembered into 42 pieces. The angle between the ray of light coming in and exiting a prism is 42 degrees. Kind of makes you give a little credibility to that tarot card thing, huh? Maybe I'm not so cuckoo. And they're giving us all the symbolism, right? What's going on in the world. And again, prism. I frequently am thinking of Stranger Things. When the girl has anybody seen that? Okay. No? Okay. Well, what they have over there, Renee, is that the girl 11, 9/11, there's probably something there. Or even 11, the two pillars of Yakin and Boaz, when you hit pause as well, the two lines going straight down. 11 is a girl that has telepathic abilities, and in order to sometimes go through into the other realm, she has to be put in a body of water in order to experience. And you could say that could be like, what is that, like a time travel thing in a sense? In a way, when you're going between realms, right? I mean, that's the whole premise of the Back to the Future movies. My mom is attracted to me. Yeah, well, so is Nimrod's. Kind of wonder where the term mother came from that. I don't know, but it's just a hunch. But anyways, when she goes to those other realms, she has to go into a pool of water. Now, when I was reading the Epic of Gilgamesh at the community college, I'm going, how did Gilgamesh experience the flood but didn't drown in it? That's interesting. I'd kind of like to know. Because if this is Nimrod, or Gilgamesh is supposed to be Nimrod's grandson, how did he experience the flood? Or just a bunch of hogwash? Or, if I make throw a little conjecture into the window, is it possible that he did one of these ceremonies, right? He went back, and this is where it would explain in the Book of Giants, in Gilgamesh, blank, blank, our hope. This is what they found on one of the tablets in the Book of Giants, allegedly written by some giants prior to the flood. In Gilgamesh, blank, blank, our hope? Well, if Gilgamesh is supposed to be Nimrod, how do they know who he is if they're going to be drowning in the flood? In Gilgamesh, our hope? You want to come back to life, though, one day. Now, this is where my other theory comes into conjecture, if it may. If the Nephilim, most of them drowned in the flood, right? And when that happens, they become daemon, Daemon, which is a spirit being. Can't go to heaven because you're an abominable offspring. Can't go to hell to visit mom and dad because, it's not the judgment time yet. So what happens? You're going to roam the earth for 70 generations until the time of the end. The root server for all computers is known as daemon or daemon waves. With AI, we are summoning the demon. Internet, place for tomb or corpse. Net, to hold or restrain something, a device used for such things. iPhone, iris, cell phone, prison phone, right? Now, is it possible that if you submit to the technology, which remember, Teche, teke, means snake. If you submit to the technology, right, you are choosing Satan's solutions over Christ's salvation. If push comes to shove, and again, if you want your money, if you want to live, you just want to go through another day, don't know, but it didn't show. What happened? No! I can't even remember what photo was there. Anyways, I'll continue without it. Sadness.
Uh,
Yes, Tim.
Real quick, so something interesting about the that deprivation tank with 11 and the water and everything.
Hmm.
So apparently there's and this is like some heavy like satanic occult stuff, but there's a way that individuals communicate with some of these angels that are locked up in Tartarus
Yep.
or Hades or whatever. And part of that ritual is two people, one covered in blood and red, and the other one painted blue, drown an individual in a bathtub while there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on in the background, and that person's spirit actually goes and communicates with these entities, and then they resuscitate them after like 12 minutes or whatever it is, or something like that. But I just thought that was interesting when you were bringing that stuff up. I wanted to share that.
Why does that immediately make me think of Whitney Houston and the guy that was in Friends drowning in a
Uh,
bathtub?
Matthew
Whitney
Perry.
Houston, her family were like, they were insistent is as she did not like bats. She preferred showers. She always had a fear of drowning. Oh, oh. And then at her funeral, they had a whole lot of Egyptian symbolism. They're like, she was not even into any of that. What the heck are you guys doing? I don't know, but it gives a little credence to what you're saying. Is like, well, you know what? Leave him on the other side. This is a sacrifice. This one's on us. You could laugh it off, but they believe in something. I can't remember what the other symbol was, but or the picture that I had here. I hope it's not one of the other articles. Anyways, the Carthaginian Phoenician sigil of Baal Haman. Baal, Moloch, Saturn, Zeus, Jupiter, Dispatar, Osiris, and Cernunnos are all variations of Nimrod's life and legacy. Now, again, you've seen some effigies of Baal. You see him holding there like his two hands outright, stuff like that. But you notice with this particular sigil with the eye right over him, you could say that's the pyramid and this is the sun coming right over him, and or a crescent moon, which could be the complementing of them coming together of a sexual conjugation of Semiramis and Nimrod and being depicted on their flags. The sea peoples, well, I'm just saying, when we're reading about the Philistines, one of their Phoenician uh, colonies was Carthage, right? When Rome basically destroyed Carthage, and you remember Hannibal, he went over the Alps with the elephants and stuff like that. And the Romans were kind of freaking out, going, "Listen, yeah, our gods aren't doing anything for us with Hannibal in our backyard, but we're gonna make a deal that if his gods turn on him, we will start worshiping some of the Carthaginians' gods." And they actually did, and they started incorporating Attis and Cybele into their pantheon of gods. So they have a little bit of a Carthaginian influence and a Greek influence for their gods. As well, Carthage was kind of a stopping point before they kept on going to a place known as the Emerald Isles. Anybody know what that is? Ireland, aye? And, if I may, allegedly, there's allegedly, I don't know if this is true or not because I haven't gotten a chance to fact check it, but this guy was writing down something that there's a thing on the coastline of Ireland that says that we are the descendants of such and so when we ran away from Joshua when he was conquering Canaan. If that's true, whether or not, I don't know. I had a little bit of a hunch. And as I'm going to show, that the Emerald Isles might have been inspired to be named from off of the Emerald Tablets. And giants were known to have red hair. A lot of thing, the trope with people from Ireland is if they have red hair and ginger steals your soul. I wonder if there's just a little bit of a genetic superstition affiliated with that. Also, can show how it connects with snakes. How many of you are familiar with Plato? Not Play-Doh, Plato. I used to eat Play-Doh when I was in school. Very nasty stuff, very salty. Wouldn't recommend. 1 star. Anyways, Plato is something very important to look into because I'll be explaining. The connection between Atlantis. Huh? Where do we think we got the term Atlantic from? Atlantis and pyramids is popular pseudo archaeological theory proposing that a technologically advanced sunken civilization of Atlantis was the common ancestor of a global pyramid building cultures. Proponents, notably Ignatius Danelli, argue that Atlantis survivors spread this architecture, and though Plato's original texts were never mentioned pyramids. Now, I kind of put a little bit of a pause on that because we see, whether it's in Mexico, whether it's down in South America, whether it's in China, that the three pyramids is a common replication. And then when I was reading the other day, I was reading and then I looked up for a second because somebody was talking to me. I looked out the window and right outside was a logo called Atlantic. And you know what was above that word? A pyramid. Now, granted, somebody could say you're just kind of jumping at conjecture, so I went online because, trying to check out logos and stuff like that. And I just said pyramid and Atlantic artwork. Look what popped up. Little eyeball, same location as before. Now, granted, I know what it means, right? And obviously, a Mason or whoever invented that probably was inspired by a similar meaning. And as I just showed with the pyramid thing, maybe there's not so far fetched. And they're calling it pseudo archaeology. It's just like a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy theorist, so why would we want to believe anything you have to say? And that you trust your government. Yeah. Did the Bible mention Atlantis? No, Atlantis is not mentioned in the Bible, though the story of Atlantis originates solely from the Greek philosopher Plato's dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. Probably butchering it, feel free to fact check and recorrect me. While some speculative theories suggest parallels between Atlantis and biblical accounts, such as the flood of Noah or the Garden of Eden, these are not directly supported by scriptural text, according to questions.org and Bible Hub. Now, for me, this is complete conjecture on my part. Maybe, just maybe, Tower of Babel could be connecting to Atlantis. Where is the Tower of Babel? If it was such a great structure, where is it? The Atlanteans were supposed to be near immortal beings. Where is the Tower of Babel? Where? I want to know where. Nobody seems to know the answer to that. Same thing with Atlantis. Come on, Brandon, you're jumping at conclusions. Your Honor, I'd like to present Exhibit B. This was like 3 days ago at the White House. Melania Trump wants to replace teachers with her new AI robot. She says in her speech, imagine a humanoid named Plato. Melania Trump says humanoid educators will offer instantaneous access to classical studies for students and help create a more complete person. Does anybody feel completely incomplete? Do you feel like you're missing something in your life? Right? I don't know. I thought of a really good dystopian slogan back in the day, right? It's for medical care, especially what there might be solution with their AI jib jab. Artificial intelligence Medicare. Aim for a better future. No, thank you. No, thank you. Now, I put this in green because when I tried to do it on a black scale background and white, it did not go through. But bear with me. Now, Plato, I'm going to explain something that's in churchianity. And you guys might notice this. Plato is one of the greatest scourges within Christianity. You'll note his lingering influence, especially among the iconodule circles, somebody who likes artistic relics, religious relics, symbols, so on and so forth. Churchians who love their aesthetic Christianity, like great cathedrals, religious icons, and elaborate mosaic portraits. Orthodox, it's a nod towards you. Plato claimed that mankind had a perfect soul within him, that man was trapped within an imperfect body, but that within held the highest enlightenment of man's abilities. The Age of Enlightenment was heavily inspired by Plato's rationale. The founding fathers, not fathers, were in turn influenced by his thinking, creating our money and politics in a pyramid system. The highest point that one, money, mono-I, towards God is at the top. The closer you are to God is how you're perceived by man. So basically, you're gauging success. How do we gauge that? Do you ever notice that when we're looking at somebody in today's world? Oh, how much success does he have? Does he have a good car? Does he have a good house? Does he make six figures? Right? You're gauging success off of material wealth and accumulation, money, right? Whereas spiritually, silver and gold have I none, but such as I have, I will give. Right? It's complete opposite for a Christian. For most Christians, it's like I don't know if I really want that. Why? Eh, I could go do so many other things with my money that for a little time that as I have it. I'd rather give it or use an experience with somebody as opposed to what, flexing? Nah, I ain't got time for that. But in man's terminology, the more money you have, the higher likelihood, right? We're going to elect you into politics, right? It's like political eugenics. If he runs a business, right, he obviously would be very good at running a country. And that doesn't necessarily mean just the president. That could be any politician because we see a lot of insider trading going on. And you read an economic interpretation of the United States Constitution by Charles Beard, and he explains and outlines how the Constitution posts the Articles of Confederation that somebody could not run for office unless they had property or they had a certain amount of wealth in their pockets. So basically, we are a merchant class submitted to the crown of England. Now, granted, we can act independently. It's like a privateer. It's like, yeah, you can be a pirate, but you're still loyal to me. You still owe me a little bit of a dividend. But tell everybody you're free, right? But what does that do? Well, I need to rely on the government. So the government's going to provide all these accessories for me. The other day, I was watching a clip. They want to start, people would have to pay thousands of dollars to get a little bit of sunlight in their future. Now, I was thinking to myself, well, I don't think they'd be able to block out the sun. But it does say in Revelation that God does turn off the sun. So if they have a second sun, which some people have cited before in Utah and some others in China, and they're just saying it's AI, whether or not that's true, and they're creating a second sun, right? But now you have to pay a premium in order to get sunlight? I don't know what's coming down the pike, but just saying. Anyways, so when you are within a cathedral, this is what the aesthetics is supposed to give you, is that you're shown the beauty of man's being through art and architecture, acting as the means of expressing the aesthetic ideals of a peak individual, acting in their highest form, right? Beauty is captured from within, and through your praise, you seek an immortal ascension towards the highest unlocked form. This is where Darwin's and Carl Jung's collective consciousness and the Christ consciousness of the New Agers bookend the final phase of this sort of thinking. That in the final evolved state, we return from whence we came, back to the stars, aka fallen angels, stardust. So again, if you're trapped already, your soul is already perfect. It's trapped inside this body. When you ascend, where are you gonna go? Where are you gonna go? Where are you gonna sleep tonight? Anyways, angels in ancient Hebrew were known as stars, and the people of Israel were condemned for worshiping the star of Remphan and the sigil of Astaroth, aka pentagram, via their Kabbalah pyramid Christmas trees in Jeremiah 10, 1 through 5. At the top of this Platonic tier of ascension on your Christmas tree are either a star or an angel. And on the Hermetic Kabbalah tree of life, it's known as either Kether or Corona. At the base of the tree, it's known as Melkuth, Mars, X, or, and this is for demonstrational purposes, the 666 hand Mudra sign. 666 being 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, 6 protons. Man reaching his highest self via transhumanism alchemy. Is this making sense? Everybody tracking? I can barely see you, Bame. It's all good. Now, again, I know we did a lot of this Christmas stuff before. I do want to put it all in one spot because some people are always asking me, Brandon, I don't have time for a full on thing. So I'll try to read it here. Please bear with me because it does connect, and I think some people have not heard this before. Tim, forgive me if I'm not wrong, but I think you're among that um, group of people. I might not have heard this. The Christmas tree. The old pagan custom of bringing a living tree indoors in the middle of the dark months of the year and decorating it with candles and trinkets was introduced to Britain by Prince Albert, the husband of Queen Victoria. The idea rapidly caught on, and bringing evergreen vegetation in the form of trees, boughs, and branches from the outside to the inside was a magical ritual, a piece of sympathetic magic meant to encourage the return of spring and the growing season. The timing and the entrance and the exit of the tree was critical. Any time before Christmas Eve was too soon for the tree to come inside, and all decorations had to be taken down and the tree removed by the 12th night, January 6th. Now, a little pause on that. January 6th, allegedly, is the day as the Epiphany of John the Baptist, according to Catholic websites where Christ was baptized by John. Allegedly, as well, it's the day that adolescent Christ was visited by the Magi. The root word for Magi, the people who studied stars, MAGA. So whether January 6th had anything to have significance to the occult, I do not know. This tradition, however, does not seem to signify for the department stores who start to display artificial Christmas trees from September onwards. The Christmas tree is traditionally an evergreen tree, usually a spruce or a fir, which is cut down from the forest. The tree itself symbolizes immortality and everlasting life, and the lights draped on it are the reminder that during the darkest time of the year, that lighter days are just around the corner, and the Yule celebrations in Northern Europe were echoed in similar rituals in Southern Europe. The Roman god Attis, or Attis, was a savior god whose life story very much parallels that of Christ. Had a spike crown, by the way. Attis was born on December 25th to a virgin mother and was sacrificed to save mankind, killed beneath a conifer yew tree, and remaining for 3 days and nights in his tomb before his resurrection. His priests, called the Dendrophori, meaning the tree bearers, were charged with selecting a conifer from a sacred grove that would be brought indoors in memory of the death and resurrection of Attis, who was also linked with Apollo, the sun god. Apollo, Apollyon. Wait, so you're telling me they're planning on bringing this guy back? I don't know. I think so. I very much think so. And again, this would explain the Apollyon individual in Revelation, a Nimrod-like character, which a lot of scholars outside of this stuff have always said it's probably going to be a Nimrod-like character. Would it be possible that it would be Nimrod's son, the occult messiah figure? Christ pagan doppelganger? I think so. Now, Christmas trees in pyramid shapes. By the 17th and 18th centuries in Europe, evergreen trees were decorated indoors during winter festivals in Germany. These types often had a triangular pyramidal shape, symbolizing ascension and a spiritual rise from the base to the apex, connection to heaven, the tip pointing upwards. Some historians trace that the amalgam of the ancient sacred trees were the Druids, Baal, and the Norse Yggdrasil, and the esoteric Christian interpretations of the Tree of Life, that's Gnosticism. Folk festival customs of the Yule logs and greenery. Putting it together, Druids, sacred groves, pagan winter rituals, tree symbolism in Christmas trees. The pyramid shape reflects human fascination with ascending forms, rooted in both nature worship, groves, sacred trees, and mystical tradition, Kabbalistic tree of life, and esoteric Christianity. By the 1800s, this crystallized into a modern day Christmas tree, decorated evergreen as a symbol of life, ascension, and spiritual hope during winter. And I was like, okay, so Druids, and again, the Druids also had a thing known as Hollywood. Stars and all the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Stars look like pentagrams, aka the sigil of Astaroth. Is that a coincidence? Ah, nuts! It didn't upload! Ha! It was just a Kierkegaard quote. I think I'd be able to look it up on my phone, but that might take too much time. But basically, God's against the concept of pyramids, scheme thinking, which I kind of outlined, but it was beautifully put. I have read this before with Renee, but I think the Bames weren't able to be there. This is from the book 4,000 Years of Christmas by Earl W. Count. And again, this is giving vindication that this isn't some cuckoo thing with the pyramid and the Christmas tree. The tree stands. The Forest Ordinance in Amershwire, already cited, indicates that by the middle of the 6th century, some Alsatians had passed from hanging greens to a standing tree. In other countries, Eastern Germany, England, Holland, and Switzerland, Scandinavia, and Russia, the people constructed something out of greenery, which was called a pyramid. Here is one of the instructions for making it. From the four corners of a wooden base, erect some uprights of a very moderate length, tapering them together at the top. This is very much paralleling what we get in Jeremiah 10, 1 through 5. Use this frame on which to tie greenery of boxwood, fir, or pine, colored papers, and other decorations. Add candles. Top with a tinsel pennant if you wish to indulge your fancy. Landscape the base with a miniature garden. Our lighted and garnished tree apparently came into being with the decoration of the Alishan fir tree, moving eastward and northward. At least met the lighted pyramid somewhere in Germany. Even after this happened, we do not know when it took place. All the older forms, the pyramid holly, decorated with an apple, hanging trees, and others, continued the pyramid as late as 1917. Well, how come we don't know more about this? Well, what happened in 1917? A lot of people died. A lot of people died in World War II. So we start losing a little bit of the history, but it's there nevertheless. And we're getting a confirmation that this was brought over from Germany, right? With Prince Albert to Queen Victoria. And then we have people who are migrating from Germany in the UK over to the US, right? I think, if I'm not mistaken, Christmas was banned until like 1830 something, if I'm not mistaken, 1850 something in the US, because it was perceived as a pagan holiday. And the first Christmas tree was sold from a guy that was from Fishkill, New York, in New York City. So, shoot, what is happening here? We're going to pause for a second. I'm going to see if a refreshing this will do anything. Any questions while I try to get that rebooted? Because I'm missing half of my slides. Anybody? Tim, you froze. You got a hand up. Okay, go for it.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Have you heard of the tomb of Gilgamesh was supposedly discovered in Iraq back in 2000s?
Yes, sir.
So talking about him coming back, my buddies and I have been kind of bouncing some theories off of each other. And it came back to, remember when we were kids and they cloned that sheep, like Dory or whatever her name was, back in the
Dolly,
90s? Dolly,
Dolly,
yeah.
yeah.
So now they've pretty much perfected cloning. I would assume they haven't come out and said it, but it makes me think about the CRISPR babies. Are you guys familiar with CRISPR?
Yes,
So
but
this is a
feel free
tech.
to elaborate.
Yeah, it's a technology that if you have enough money, you can essentially uh, choose which genes are turned on in your baby and which ones are shut off. So you can choose its hair color, its eye color, all this stuff. So as far as like bringing Nimrod back, I don't think that's too far fetched at all, especially with the technology that we have nowadays, where we can clone stuff. If they did find Gilgamesh's tomb in Iraq, which is a lot of people believe is the main reason why we went in and invaded Iraq in 2003, I don't think it's too far fetched to believe that we could clone him and he could eventually show up as a savior figure for the world, right?
You think it'd be Nimrod or Tammuz?
Uh, Probably Nimrod, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I lean more towards Tammuz because it was supposed to be Nimrod reborn, as I'm going to show in another two slides or so.
Okay.
Um, as well, he seems to be the more perfect candidate because he was the one that translated the Emerald Tablets. That was not Nimrod, and their god is a god of trade. We're getting a lot of stuff with trade wars. We had the World Trade Center's fall. It's making me lean that it would be the successor, as it were, because Nimrod perceived himself as God. So, son of God, son of Nimrod, you would have to have some sort of to complete their Ouroboros. You had Nimrod reborn, so the mother, the life Ankh, the Egyptian Ankh, she's
Mm-hmm.
the one that gives life. In order for this to happen again, it has to go reverse in order to get back to a Nimrod like character. Now,
Okay.
this is where I would throw a little bit of conjecture towards what you're saying. Possibly, if I'm right with Trump, if we're right with Trump, I don't know. Is that if he's Tammuz, once he's off the scene, who takes over? Is that going to be Jared Kushner? Is that going to be Barron Trump? Right, so on and so forth. And that might be the Nimrod equivalent, but someone has to lay the groundwork, right? Prepare you the way for the AC system, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's the devil incarnate, whether that's actually a rebooted Nimrod finally able to take the stage. I don't know. I did cover that more uh in Are You Ready to Rem Fan episode. If
I'll check
anybody
that
wants to
out.
cross reference that, and I was covering I brought up the images of allegedly who they found over there, and I was breaking down the symbolism when they open up the sarcophaguses uh, of the individuals that they allegedly found.
Hmm.
Anything else? I think the reboot did it some good. Okay. Man is a social animal, and what he believes in the power of union. So man's thought is, let us all unite. If it were possible, all the kingdoms and countries of earth with this pyramid-shaped union, always rising higher and higher, supporting at its summit a super king, whom one may suppose to be nearest to God. In fact, so near to God that God cares about him and takes notice of him. In Christian terms, the true state of affairs is exactly the reverse of this. Such a super king would be the farthest from God, just as the whole pyramid enterprise is utterly repugnant to God. Soren Kierkegaard. I very much love some of his stuff. He goes right to town with his work. So, anyways, the word pyramid, and again, this could be right, this could be wrong, but as I was tinkering around, I was trying to break down the very word pyramid. Pi, which is fire, Ra, ray, sun god, mid, in your midst. When we say that all together, pyramid, it is a fire of the sun in your midst. Oh, is that even true? Well, I don't know. There's a radiant light shining behind an eyeball. It's just a hunch. considering they believe in sun god worship. And again, the Catholic Church, son of God worship, sun god worship, right? We've merged the two. You didn't even notice, but thank you, Constantine. Thank you, buddy, for making that Mithras stuff come into our stuff and mess up everybody's theology and faith, right? Now we're arguing, it's the one true church. No, it's not. It's not. Um, and again, this is in their belief systems, but whether you go into South America, you go to the pyramid, whether you're doing the yoga pose here of the Buddha, what do we see? It's a triangle, right? Triangle. The perfect temple, right? And again, that is for illustrational purposes. And Ai, there was a city called Ai that Joshua destroyed when he was conquering Canaan. Maybe there's a connection? I don't know. I don't know. Does anybody I don't want to bore you with going over trivial stuff. Does anybody want me to break this down before you guys remember it from other shows?
I'm good. I was a Freemason for a few years, so I understand.
So, all right. Bames, Renee, I couldn't hear what you said.
I couldn't, I mean, I don't really remember this.
You don't remember? Do you want me to cover it or no? It's again, this is on your guys' time.
Okay. I mean, I'd like it, but if I'm
Okay.
the only one, I can go
Oh
look at
yeah,
your
we
other
can do it.
content.
I'm good with it.
Bame,
Okay.
No, you're totally fine.
you're a break and vote here, man.
Yeah, you can go ahead and
Okay.
explain it.
Okay. So, again, this might not be what he heard in the lodge. This is just from breaking down from what I'm studying symbolism wise. Now, Semiramis, she sits at the top of this ladder. You could say stairway into heaven, right? The ladder, Jacob's ladder. Some people might perceive that as, but she sits underneath the sun. And if the sun is supposed to represent Nimrod, right? That gives a nod that she is close with her husband, right? But then we go down here, and we have Nimrod, and of course he's pointing upward, and he's pointing to the Queen of the Heavens symbols, right? The moon and the stars, right? But in the center, we have an individual, and again, he's doing the as above pose. I believe this would be Tammuz, the center, and he has the all-seeing eye over him, right? And forgive me if I'm wrong, but Tim, but doesn't a hope equal, sorry, an anchor equal hope in Freemasonry? And then he holds a key to unlock
Yeah.
something, your God potential, right? But when you wrap this around, you're going to see a Ouroboros symbol take place. See here? Boom, boom, go back around, boom, boom. In between two pillars of Yakin and Boaz. Now, somebody might remember 9/11. You had one tower, two tower, and then building 7 off in the corner. Or when you go into a Freemasonic lodge, you have a candle on one side, candle on the other, and you have a light in the corner. Take off the blindfold, as Russell Brand was putting on his Twitter post the day after his baptism. Take off the blindfold, and you will see the light. Oh, okay, wearing a Saturn shirt at the same time. And this is what people are following. Oh, he's just a baby Christian. He doesn't know what he's doing, holding a tarot deck with the Star Remphan on the top of the deck. Really? Really? You really think he's that dumb and he's got the Kundalini tattoo on his arm? Come on. They know exactly what they're talking about. Um, Jeffrey Epstein's niece, she just came forward and she did an interview with somebody and saying, like, I found out that our family was practitioners of a Baal cult. Okay, so thanks for giving us confirmation that we're not cuckoo nutsy and they actually are doing stuff that is supposed to be worshiping Baal. It's not just idolatry, idol tree. A snake wrapped around when you're seeing all the symbols. So this is something I found very common. Whether somebody's a patriot or somebody who's a traditionalist, those are the hardest people that when you're trying to tell them we need to stop doing things in this world, whether that's our politics or starting to stop doing the pagan holidays, they get so mad at you. Why? Because you still love things of this world. I ask you, is this going to be in heaven? No. And why do you do it here? You don't know. You don't know. Renee, this is giving you a little bit of analogy. So when you're talking to your nephews, what is a Christmas tree? Well, it represents Baal. It represents the Tower of Babel. It represents ascension. It's getting to God without submitting to him. It's looking within, right? I think that's pretty concise without making it all kind of crazy. Just keep it very simple, but help them.
Yeah.
Now, for his presence and power to reign supreme, phallic symbols, I think we've seen these around before, and fire should be lit to honor him. The supposed child of that union is Horus, aka Baphomet, aka Mithra, aka Tammuz, Nimrod's son, the reincarnate of Nimrod. Semiramis claimed a full-grown evergreen tree sprang out of the roots of a dead tree stump, and this symbolized the springing forth of new life for Nimrod on the anniversary of Nimrod's birth, December 25th. She said that Nimrod would visit the evergreen tree and leave gifts under it. This was the Genesis, and the Christmas tree, the symbol of Nimrod. This equates to approximately 9 months after Easter, the date that Ishtar became pregnant with Tammuz. Now, again, this is another reason why I would say instead of Nimrod, it would be Tammuz, because what do Catholics put on their freaking pineal gland? A cross of Tammuz on Ash Wednesday. It's a phoenix rising from the ashes, right? That whole concept and belief system. Life born again. That whole concept, it just seems to be, but it's occultically speaking, right? We're doing it through our own means, technology, snakeology. And again, this is something else that I found very, very interesting. Allegedly, Apophis is supposed to take place on Friday the 13th in April of 2029. The significance of 2029? Easter is on the same day as April Fool's Day in 2029. The Fool card is supposed to be an equivalent of Osiris on the tarot cards, aka Nimrod. The moon landing, allegedly, we went with Apollo, right? It could be equivalent of Nimrod. On the moon, which is a symbol of Semiramis, Apollo 11, 11, the character in Stranger Things. Well, allegedly, that was filmed on 4169. Apollo hoax, the clapboard. I've shown that before. If that's true, it does make me scratch my head. And again, that would mean that the sun and the moon land on the same exact day, April Fool's Day and Easter. I don't know if that's a coincidence, but right before 2030, I do find it very, very interesting. And shortly thereafter, you have Apophis happen, which is kind of sounding like wormwood in the Bible, where this giant meteorite thing comes down and crashes into the earth. Whether it's a meteorite, I don't know. Whether God's just like, cut the chandelier. Oh, have fun, everybody that killed my saints. So again, if anybody's ever watched Paramount, right? Isn't Paramount kind of getting on the scene lately in the news? They're buying up everything, right? Is there a reason for that? Well, Paramount Pictures is Mount Hermon, subliminal messaging, truth in plain sight. So when you watch the logo, when you're watching the movie or TV show from Paramount, you see the logo of Paramount Pictures starts off with 22 stars falling and coming down to a mountain. The stars, angels, represent the watcher angels falling from heaven, and the mountain represents the Mount Hermon. The mountain they landed on, why 22 stars? Well, 22 of the angels are named in the book of Enoch as the conspirators of the pact they made on Mount Hermon to corrupt humanity and create abominations. Now, what I found interesting as I was digging around compiling all of this, first Enoch, and that's the only one that I will give a semi-endorsement for at least historical consideration, by R.H. Charles, and they were in all 200 who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon, and they called it Mount Hermon because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. Jared! Oh my gosh! Is that a confirmation? Tim, go ahead.
Another symbolism of that 33 is Mount Hermon's on the 33rd parallel as well.
Yes, that's on the next slide.
Okay, my bad.
No, you're head of the class. Correct. That is correct. But when people are asking me, is it Jared? Is it this one? I personally think no. But when we look around Trump's cabinet, we also have an individual, Paula White Cain. Cain, spelt the same way as Cain and Abel. Right? And to say no to Donald Trump is to say no to God. Okay. But then you have Jared who's buying up all this stuff. So whether that means he is the guy or whether he's just hanging around the sphere, it's in the days of Jared. So maybe even if just having the names around you is what gives you energy, right? I call Elon Musk Babby Elon Musk, right? Let's call it what they are. Come on here. But again, just something for consideration for folks. As Tim just said, things that I found interesting about Mount Hermon is Freemasonry has 33 degrees because they worship the fallen Watcher's alchemy knowledge that Nimrod's son Tammuz, Hermes, translated from here. Mount Hermon coordinates is the 33-degree parallel. Mount Hermon in Hebrew means forbidden or cursed. Hermes derives his name from Mount Hermon. The emerald tablets were translated from the events that transpired here. So basically, the angels came down. They gave all this knowledge to mankind, right? Alchemy knowledge from the angels, right? So now we have knowledge from above. Baal Hermon, Bel Hermon, ring a bell and a steeple tower that looks kind of like a phallic symbol atop of every church building. Allegedly, bells were supposed to keep away spirits for a long time, and that's part of the reason why churches put up bells was to keep away bad spirits. Whether or not that's true, superstition was there. The world's tallest United Nations base is atop of Mount Hermon, with the Star of Chaos in front, 8 points on it, and the Star of Chaos rests on the front of it. Now, allegedly, the twin towers of the Emerald Tablets were of this shade and color. Whether it was made from emerald or not, this is part of the reason why I think the Emerald Tablets do connect with the Emerald Isles of Ireland. Why? Because what is St. Patrick known for? Driving the snakes out of Ireland. Snakes are an equivalent of the Druids. Who always carries a staff with snakes on it? Nimrod's son, Hermes, Caduceus' staff. Messenger between the gods, angels, because he's translating their knowledge, or the god of trade. So money, trade, god of knowledge, right? I don't know, but he seems like a pretty good candidate if he's going to deceive the whole world, right? And again, now knowing these symbols, you kind of look at 9/11 a little bit differently. Pentagon, all-seeing eye, Department of War now. After 9/11, they had a ceremony where they prayed on ground zero. They formed an all-seeing eye. Yeah, because, Randy, you're kind of, well, I don't know. And why is Meta censoring me when I shared the video clip of this? I wasn't able to post for several days. I'm just saying.
This is just crazy.
I'm showing a news article of them
just...
praying, allegedly.
Yeah.
And then in the wake of that, what do they build? A Ouroboros. Right? And Templar Masonry. Saturn Satan was assigned the color of black in the outer spheres. The two inverted black cubes of 9/11 Memorial resemble a variation of the black Saturn Satan cube, where the World Trade Tower once stood. And again, a Masonic compass on the side when you take an angle shot from it. People know what they're doing. Bame, are you good for time? You seem a little...
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, all right. Oh, darn. It didn't upload it again. Anyways, so the middle one was supposed to be showing a little bit more breakdown of the cross in Masonic circles. When you look up... I'll have to look it up now because I don't want to bring it all up again. I believe it's in 2 Kings. 2 Kings 18:4. First I'll read this, but you can cross-reference me if you want to look that up. When we get to John 3:16, right before that, John 3:14 and 15. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whoever believes in him, not the cross, may have eternal life. Significance? Well, I don't know, because the children of Israel, they built an Apis bull. Golden calf is what we read, but Apis bull is what it means in Egypt. It means a reigning monarch, right? When we read over in 2 Kings 18:4, and he removed the high places, shattered the sacred pillars. I kind of wonder if that was those Venus statues that we see, and cut down the Asherah poles. He also demolished the bronze snake that called Nehushtan that Moses had made. For up to that time, the Israelites had burned incense towards it. Why do you think God was upset with that? And why particularly did you have snakes biting everybody in the camp? Symbolism, symbolism, symbolism. You guys want to follow the snake, the poison ideology? Why did Moses, why was the first trick that he did with the magicians? Threw down his shepherd's staff, and they threw down their staffs, right? And what was the commonality with both parties? They turned into snakes. Where do you think they learned that little bit of magic from? Hermes, Nimrod's son. Snakes in Ireland, the Druids. Oh, crap! Nobody likes us down in Egypt anymore. Let's migrate. Oh, nobody likes us in Italy. Let's go a little further. Where are the Druids? Where are the pyramid worshippers? Greenery, right? And it starts getting into the northern tribes, whether in Ireland and or Germany, right? Well, wait, I don't know. But snake staffs, they're prevalent in both stories. And the children of Israel, what are they starting to do? We're worshiping the snake staff. We're worshiping the snake staff. Again, you could even say the staff could represent the tree from the Garden of Eden, and the snake represents the knowledge of good and evil, right? The scepter. Deceptor. Ha! Anyways. The crafty serpent called Satan deceived the whole world through pharmakia. And now that's the symbol that we use on ambulances? With 9/11? Possibly Christ's birth? Wow. And they call it what? Star of Life. Star of Life. Angels, fallen stars. What does it say in Revelation 18:23? Voice of the groom, Christ, God's word, and the bridesmaid was heard no longer in thee, the world. Because your great men of the earth were the merchants, corporate class, technocrats, call it what you will, were the great men of the earth, and by their pharmakia, sorceries, were the nations deceived. What did Satan say? I will ascend to be like the God Most High, star of life. Who gives us new life? 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, 6 protons, an AI injection technology to keep us going, snakeology? Or is it going to be Christ? And do we worship the cross, or do we worship the person who was put on that cross and came back to life, that gives us life? And I find that very interesting as well, that again, that's Baphomet's junk, serpent seed. I'll put enmity between her seed and your seed. I'll give you power to crush snakes and scorpions underfoot. You see it, guys? I don't know. I find this pretty fascinating. Fascinating.
Crazy.
So, this is what they believe. If you don't like it, I understand. I do. But I'm open to at least hearing more of what they had to say. Because at the very base, right, they have a Saya, not Messiah, a Saya, is the lowest of the 4 spiritual worlds in the Kabbalistic thought and representing the material realm, the physical universe of in the world of action or making, creating. It's the final stage of manifestation in creation where divine energy takes tangible form, right? Why do I find this interesting? It's a symbol of the cross at the base for this black hole. And it could be either the cathode, which is where we get the root word for Catholic from, means universal. Catholic means universal church. It could also mean the moon when you compare it along other side Kabbalistic trees, right? Earth, ground, sun, moon, electrode. Moon equals negative cathode, a negative universe, right? Sun equals a positive electrode. Earth equals the ground. Everything is electric. Everything's energy. See, they don't even realize it. It's like, I think Tim could allege this. A lot of New Agers are Masons. They have just no idea. And this is why people, when they're like,
Mhm.
yeah, look at the Masons, they obviously don't run anything. Why? Because you're seeing all the dumb schmucks in the lower echelons that don't know what the hell's going on. They're just going there for barbecue and have a good time and talk about politics, and they have no idea what's going on in the world. And I've not just
Yeah,
talked with Tim. There's two guys at my former job, and there's a guy I meet at the cafe that's second level Blue Lodge Mason. He's like, I've never been there in like 20 years. I was like, well, obviously, because you have no idea what's going on in the world.
yeah, I'd actually say it's more of a soft core form of Satanism or Luciferianism than New Age, but
Well, again, it's like it's still a pyramid scheme.
yeah.
I'll talk about her because she didn't watch the show anymore, anyways. I have a sister-in-law that does all those the pyramid. This is the diamond tier. This is the silver tier. This is the gold tier. She does all that stuff, and I'm literally chuckling because I'm like, she's also one of those people who has no idea what's going on in the world, but they all get mad at people like me when I start talking about it. Lastly, make note that at the very base is 10. Number is 10. Over here, you could say it's the final judgment. This little strip right here. And then, what was another thing that I saw over here? Adonai and something with Hades, or Souls on Fire, is another thing that's represented down here when you get to the 10. At the top is known as Corona. At the base, it's Mars, Malkuth X, 10, across. Constantine took the symbol of the cross to make it Christian, right? It's a Christian technocracy. What's your problem? But who also has 10 toes? Anybody ever see this one before? You have the Catholic Church, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You got Christ when you see him sucking on the Virgin Mary's teats, he's always going towards the left one. He's going towards the teat of wisdom, philosophy, right? It's going to the teat of wisdom. That's where I'll get closer to God if I look to the Bina, as it's in Hebrew. But I was looking at this going, looks real similar to this statue that Nebuchadnezzar dreamed up. Kether, golden crown. Then he gets silver, right? Which is the Medo-Persian Empire, Greece, right? Being the loins region. Get to the legs, being the Roman Empire. And then finally, you get to the Empire of Iron and Clay. And iron is usually affiliated with the Industrial Revolution, right? Or X, 10, AI, A equals 1, I equals 9. AI, X, 10. What has 10 toes? And then you got the Club of Rome that wants to divide the world into 10 districts. When we had the C19 thing, C19, 1, 9, CX, Corona X, Crown X, Corona X, Corona X. I don't know, but there was an early scholar in the Christian church that was making a defense statement about a soldier that says, I can't wear a garland wreath on my head, a corona, because I am a Christian. There's no one worthy of the crown but Christ. So as he's writing his little thing, he says, yes, we should not receive the corona, the devil's mark upon our foreheads. Oh, and that was way back when. So if we're not supposed to be accepting the crowns of kings, right? The crowns of this earth, is that giving us a little bit of a nod of what we put into our corona? I don't know. I don't know. Spike virus, spike crown. But you see it when you combine it, it's also the Star of Remphan. This is what your Kabbalah Christmas tree represents. Ascension. Ascension. The base, it's 10. It could be the moon, right? The crescent moon, whether it's Islam or the crescent moon where the Virgin Mary is always cradled. It could be an X, a cross, 10, right? The ancient Christian painting reveals the Kabbalah tree of life. Catholics, 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 they've always been showing you. As Carlin said, I leave the symbols to the symbol-minded. It's there, you're like, wow, it looks great. Do you understand what you're looking at? This is why the iconoclasts were like, no, no graven images, because they could be putting this stuff in there and we have no idea. But then we defend this stuff. We have no idea what we're defending. And I was saying this the other night, is that you are the temple of God. I don't think God's presence is in the Ark of the Covenant anymore. Know ye not that your body is a temple of the Lord? Greater is he that is within you than he is of the world. So if the Antichrist, right, wants to sit in the throne or the temple of God, right, where do you do that? Through their minds. Government, mind control. Right? I want their hearts and minds. These people please me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. So if I was Satan, yeah. This is just ancient depictions of the Anunnaki decorating a Christmas tree, but it's the same concept across all cultures. Babylonian, Sumerian. I've had other shows where I've shown the Egyptian one. We're rounding up. Sigil of Ashtaroth. When I Googled, I didn't even know there's a thing called Sigil of Ashtaroth. It's literally the pentagram. I was like, well, thanks for giving vindication that Ashtaroth's a real person. And as well, does that mean Nimrod's wife was the first witch in the Bible? I don't know. So when you say that we're a Christian nation, how come this is how they decided to design the streets in Washington, D.C.? With the tip, the mouth, the little horn speaks, Trump, I don't know, pointing towards the White House. When you do elections, November means 9, but in our calendar, it's the 11th month, 9/11. 365 days out of a year. 3, triangle, tri, Hermes. 6, the star of Remphan. 5, the pentagram. Penta means 5. G, the god ram, the goat ram. If you're looking for verses, I'm not going to read all this, but if you want to look more, it's about, Solomon worshiping Ashtaroth. You can find that in 1 Kings 11, 5 through 13. And with Moloch, this one is very, very, very important. Moloch, or Molech, is a Canaanite deity mentioned in the Hebrew Bible, primarily associated with child sacrifice and condemned in Leviticus. The name is derived from a Hebrew term combining king with the word for shame to deride pagan practices with rituals often involving fire and children, possibly infertility rites. Frequently, if I was remembering correctly, that to be a coronation for a king or to gain passage into eternity, for that getting your spot on the Orion's belt, you would have to sacrifice your firstborn kid in order to achieve that. Your firstborn son. When God's casting the plagues on Egypt, he takes Pharaoh's firstborn son. When he's bringing Abraham, saying, I want to make a covenant with you. It's my only son. I've waited forever for thee. Really? Everybody else is doing it with Baal. I want to see if you're loyal to me like that, Abraham. And he does it, and then he stops him. He's like, hey, I just want to check. I want to see if you're that radical. Right? That's getting to the roots. That's what the word radical means, getting to the roots. I want to see if you're that radical and loving me. Because everybody else are following these stupid Christmas tree, stupid things, whatever. They're doing all this ascension practice and beliefs. They're shedding kids' blood. I want to know if my son is worthy of that with you. A spiritual concept that I want to embody in a fleshly vessel, and I'm going to do that through your seed. That's the covenant contract we're going to have here. And through your seed, all mankind is going to be redeemed. We're going to have a shot at being redeemed, that is to say. So stop. The ram's over there in the thicket. Take that instead. Put it in substitute of Isaac. Right? Beautiful symmetry there. Ashtaroth. Astro means star. Not, as in nautical? Water? As above, so below? Water's beneath the continents, they've been saying. There's possibly water. Is what Christ is illustrating when he's walking on water? This is what it's like when you walk on the crystal sea on the other side. Astrology. Worship of stars. Anybody watched the Guardians of the Galaxy? Well, star, mole in the Sumerian word basically translates meaning star. Baal means owner, lord, or master. Star Lord. Moloch Baal. But I thought he was supposed to be a Christian in Hollywood. No, he's not. Just did another one called The Mercy Seat, and that was a crazy propaganda film. Not to mention he's doing a lot of movies lately with fighting AI robots. Nah, nah, nah. Nah, nah, nah. He's not one of us. Anyways, this is what they believe. That's the sigil of Lucifer. You'll note that as your play symbol for Google Play. It's also your 5G, right? And they're automatically doing that right now with all of our phones. They're upgrading us without request to 6G, right? And with 6G, they want to start using us as human antennas by 2030. But this is what they believe. And in the center, the black hole sun, right? That's possibly where they suspect Babel could be in Antarctica. If you're going off what they believe. Now, Satan's Little Season group, they didn't like my breakdown presentation. They seem to be cultivated into a very Neoplatonic thought that Christ is going to come down on a pyramid from this. And again, I've taken clips from a guy that believe this. Going to come down on a pyramid and save all of God's people. But everybody's going to be confused in the world, so they're going to go to war against him when he's coming down. But he's going to come back to like Antarctica or something like that. Because when he left from, 70 AD when the temple was destroyed, now he's going to come back after 1776, 250 years later, to redeem the rest of us who were been deceived in Satan's little season for a time. Because we've been brainwashed. I kid you not. This is literally something that they believe. I'm like, okay, you're crazy. Anyways, cross symbols. So, has anybody ever seen these pillars before? At the top of one, it's heliocentrism, globe Earth. On the other one, it's a whole bunch of stars. Hermeticism, stars, right? Worship of stars. So one, tell them to focus on this realm, earthly, material, and then on top of that, make them think of where they came from with evolution. You come from stardust, right? You come from stardust. So focus on this world, right? Don't think your mind on things above. And if you do, think about stardust. Because that's where you have your potential. That's where we can reforge you into the new person that we want you to be. Again, whether it's the Eye of Ra, which is Nimrod, or the Eye of Darkness, which is Tammuz. You have it on your social securities, these two pillars. And they say peace and safety, which he said at his inauguration address last year. Whitehouse.gov, cross-reference me, folks. And then you see Grok, whose symbol is the black hole. Black hole sun. They believe it. They believe it. I had a guy, Victor, he's over here telling me this, like, yeah, we'll just get back in touch with the energy of the ether. Huh? The ether? Well, anyways, the importance of the number 33. 3 plus 3 is the hexagram or the Trinity. It's very common. I should have put the other slide here where it was talking about the Trinity and Masonic quotes, but it's good enough. It's a mirrored 33 or an 8, a Ouroboros, which you see over the magician's head. Right? When you look at the new Turning Point logo, it's now fully not a halfway point. It's now gone full circle of a snake eating its tail with the little point going to the other end. Yeah. The hidden consciousness, the mind's eye, wields dominion over the physical avatar, channeling its desires into the fabric of the simulation. The head, symbolizing heaven, or the top of your pyramid, serves as the throne for consciousness, as it houses the seat of perception, the eye. Our consciousness transcends the confines of the 3D matrix, existing in a realm of true reality beyond the material plane. Now, honestly, when you think about this, right, you're putting yourself like the mind of God. You think you have the mind of God? And again, that's what Satan says, right? I will ascend to be like the God Most High. And now you're over here creating an ideology where Christ consciousness, man. if I just tap into the ether, then I can be just like God, right? Yes, Tim.
Hey, just real quick, I got about 20 minutes left.
Yeah, we're wrapping up.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep. Uh, anyways, again, I'm getting it from their sites, Hermes, Alchemical, whatever. And again, it's because I post stuff, and then it'll come through my algorithm, and then I'll break it down. The perfect man, right? The sun and the moon coming together, Nimrod and Semiramis, to get their son, Hermes, in the middle, right? And you'll note that that's the inverted pride flag. If you flip it upside down, it's all the same colors, minus, I think, purple? Same thing with the Twin Towers. I personally think that's Coronation Day for their Antichrist. So, I think it's this and like another slide or two. The love of money is the root of all evil. Again, when you're doing their chakras, at the very base, it's Mars, the root chakra. And as you can see, it's the 666 hand mudra sign. I'm just showing you. Again, you may not believe it, but when you see them doing 666 over their eyeball, all these Hollywood celebrities are like, how do you know the camera guy's not just telling them to pose like that? Really? Really? So, I don't have to read all of this, but Yuval Harari in the Gilgamesh Project. When I said I was going to touch on it, I wasn't joking. In the science industry, basically, Yuval Harari is World Economic Forum. He was the #1 advisor to Klaus Schwab, Mr. Eat Bugs himself. Also has been caught kissing Russell Hobrand kissing his forehead, Yuval Harari. And anyways, they have this idea that the human essence is not the soul for Harari, it's DNA. Soon he says you'll be able to rewrite DNA. It stands for the engineer of a new species of humans. So what is he? In his book Homo Deus, Yuval Noah Harari writes that the organisms are algorithms. These includes humans who consist of algorithms that produce copies of themselves. The human essence is not, the realization of DNA is an information code for all living things. It was made by Francis Crick in 1953. The four chemicals that form the basis of DNA function like the alphabetical characters in written language, or like a code or software. That Star of Remphan, fire, air, sun, water, or air, water. The concept draws its name from the ancient Mesopotamian king Gilgamesh, Nimrod, who famously sought eternal life, but ultimately failed, realizing that his death is the human condition. In Harari's view, contemporary science aims to replicate this quest through biotechnology, nanotechnology, and artificial intelligence, aka NIBIC. The foundation of the Gilgamesh project lies in the convergence of biotechnology, blah, 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 blah. We're good. Okay. And the Gilgamesh Project refers to various initiatives inspired by the ancient epic of Gilgamesh, focusing on the themes of immortality, transhumanism, and the experience of marginalized communities. And yes, there is such a thing as a beast system in Belgium that is a quantum data collecting center. Uh-huh. Last slide. AI, we will become like gods. Hermes' name roughly translates to His Highness, the hero of divine ordinances of eternal youth. And Trump just so happens to have name etymology to this guy. Hence my conclusion. Christmas trees, Babylon, transhumanism, it all very much interconnects. Yes, it's important to talk about because if you lie to your kids, well, you're doing a great disservice in regards to spiritual warfare. And that is all that I have for you folks. I hope that was informative and not too long and lengthy. I think we lost Millie to a nap, so I apologize. Thoughts, questions, concerns, ridicules?
I enjoyed it. A lot of good stuff in there for sure.
Coco?
Yeah.
Tim?
Just seems
Or
like
Renee?
everything. Oh, sorry, Tim. It just seems like everything American is just summoning the Antichrist, like all the symbolism. It's just heartbreaking.
I love it when they say, well, I don't think America's going to be around in the end times because we don't see anything about it. It's like, and yet I think we got like the highest possibility of symbolism when you start understanding what Satanism believes in, right? It's like, why were we founded as a country? Why is it this guy's
Yeah.
here? Why does it, right? Tim.
Yeah, I thought it was really good, man. This was very informative and some good stuff to for me to go dig into a little bit. But it was a refresher on some other stuff that I've learned in the past. And but yeah, good stuff, man. This is awesome.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, again, thank you everybody for your support. Thank these people for their support. I cannot emphasize that enough. A lot of people seem to find me on Patreon, but few actually hit that support button like these individuals here. So I really do love all of you. I hope that was educational and I wasn't boring the crap out of you.
Fair.
Any other things that you would like to do in the future, feel free to mention it if you'd like to here now. No? Too much to put you on the spot.
I'm
I get
I'm
it.
marinating. I'm still marinating right now. That was
Welcome to my world, Renee. This is why I can't
this
sleep
is,
well at night.
I can imagine. Yeah.
All right, I'll close in a word of prayer, and then
Thank
we'll try to
you.
coordinate something within a couple of weeks. I don't know what we got, but we'll figure it out. Anybody has any suggestions? Feel free to write that down in the comments. This is the Mana Daily Podcast. You can find me on Spotify, Rumble, and YouTube, and if you're able, on that Patreon. Without any further ado, let's close with prayer. Father God, I just want to thank you for this time of fellowship and having the ability to be able to share all of this very interesting information, whether it's going to help people and resonate. I hope that that is what it will do, as was intended for. Lord, that we would be prepared to expose the darkness without actually being participators in it, Lord. In this day and age, I feel like a lot of people like to project and point fingers, and they don't want to reflect and meditate to how they can change their lives and adapt it to follow you so that we are a better testimony in this world. I ask, Lord, that you bless everybody who tuned in today, both here and those who are listening when I post this. In your name we pray and ask this. Amen. And without any further ado, folks, we'll catch you all on the next one.